All right, in this lesson, we're going to take a look at creating our very first class. Isn't that right, Logan?
That's right.
Now, this is going to be kind of an expansion on what you saw earlier where we actually created this package, okay, the health sphere, except this time around, we're going to be taking things just a little bit further. Okay, the health sphere package. This lesson is going to explore the creation of a new package that's going to contain several different types of content. Okay, we're going to have a new class, we're going to have a new model, a new texture, and new sound. And the cool thing about this lesson is we're actually going to create it all right in front of you, with the exception, of course, of the WAV file, but you can go in just about anything and generate a WAV file, right, Logan?
Right, I mean, even Windows Sound Recorder.
Exactly.
If you want a really cheap WAV sound.
But with some people, you start mentioning creating new models or textures, and they may go, huh? So we're going to be using 3ds Max and Photoshop for doing our content generation. Now, what is the functionality of the health sphere? Well, first of all, it's designed to be a creepy-looking sphere with a little happy face, simply put. The sphere is going to generate 10 points of health every time that it's touched. And it's also going to scream out, "I feel good," which was recorded by our very own Derek Stevens when the sphere is touched. All right, so with that, let's go and get started. First, I shall begin inside of 3ds Max, where I will create our ultra-complex model. Coming over here to the Create panel, I'll simply come down to Sphere, and in the top viewport, click and drag out a sphere. Somewhere around 56 units, right about there. Now, pretty tough so far, Logan?
I don't know. A little bit complicated.
Okay, so now let's try to hang in there a little bit longer, and let's create a texture for this guy. So I'm going to come down here and open up Photoshop, and go ahead and do a new image here, and we're going to do 512 by 512. That'll work. So go ahead and tell it OK. And let's come in here and give it a color. So let's go with some sort of bright yellow. That'll work. And use our paint bucket here to go ahead and fill it in with a bright yellow. And let's go ahead and create a new layer down here. And I'm going to hold Shift, click, and drag, and I'm going to make a circle. And the reason I held Shift is just so that it was a uniform scale up in size. And let's go ahead and paint that black. And I'll hit Control D to go ahead and get rid of my selection. And so we've got one. Let's go ahead and hold Alt and drag out another eye. And maybe right about there. And we can go ahead and hold Alt and drag out maybe to right about there for a little nose. And then finally, I'll go ahead and do one more new layer. And let's just come up here, grab a paintbrush, and we'll draw a creepy little smile. What do you think, Logan? Will this make a good creepy sphere?
Oh, yeah.
So let's go ahead and save this out. So I'm simply going to come up here and do a Save As. And we are currently up under, Buzz Stuff. How perfect is that? So up under Buzz Stuff, let's go ahead and save this out as a target. So I'll come down here, and we'll just simply call it Health Sphere. Okay? And we'll save it. And 24 bits, yep. And there we go. So now we are done with Photoshop. So let's go ahead and come back over here to 3ds Max and slide over up here on our main toolbar, open up the Material Editor. Then inside the Material Editor, first sample slot is selected. I'll come down here to the Diffuse channel, click on my Map Channel button right there, come up here and assign a bitmap to it. And the bitmap is going to be the health sphere that we just created. So I'll go ahead and select it. There he is. Go ahead and tell it OK. And now I can simply click, drag, and drop. And I'll go ahead and tell it to show this map in the viewport. So now we can see him. A little bit stretched out. Let's go ahead and perhaps maybe adjust his tiling so we'll see him on the front and the back. So what I'll do with the sphere selected is come over here to the modifier panel, and then we'll just simply come all the way down and apply a UVW map modifier. And we'll go ahead and come back down here and select spherical. And let's take our U and let's wrap it or tile it maybe twice. So let's see what we get here. Yep. And yeah, okay, so that's starting to look good and creepy, huh, Logan?
Oh, yeah.
So let's go ahead and right-click, collapse all. I'll tell it yes. And in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and convert this to an editable poly. So that'll work for us. And with this, we're now ready to go ahead and export our sphere out over into a format that can be imported in by Unreal Ed.
That's right.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and come over here to the Utilities tab, and I'll click on More, and we're going to launch Actor X, which is a plugin that is available over at udn.epicgames.com. So I'll go ahead and click OK. For those of you interested in how to go about installing this, if you watch our Matinee VTM, we go over the process of getting the plugin and getting it installed so that it'll work with 3ds Max. From here, first thing I want to do is make sure we've got our output folder set up, and it already is, d:/UT2003 /buzz stuff. And we'll go ahead and give it a mesh file name. So we'll call this Health Sphere. There we go. And before I hit save, right now it's going to be looking for skin geometry. So let's go ahead and come down a little bit lower. And up underneath the Actor X setup rollout, I'm going to uncheck all skin type, and I'm just going to check all textured. Okay? So now I should be able to come back up here and click Save Mesh and Reference Pose. So I'll go ahead and click it. Okay, you can see that the skin file, healthsphere.psk, was written. Okay. Now what we want to do is we need to go ahead and write out, let's go ahead and come down here a little bit lower, a script template. Logan, you want to go ahead and talk about that for a second?
Okay, this hitting Save Mesh Ref Pose just generated a PSK file. What we're going to be doing with that PSK file is bringing it into our .u package along with the code and everything else, instead of using Unreal Ed's animation browser to bring in to load it and save it into a different package like a UKX file.
Right.
We're going to need to be able to import this using exec commands in Unrealscript.
And instead of going in there and telling you the layout of the exec commands, why do that when you can have this type it for you, right?
Right, because there's 3 fairly complicated lines, and this will just it'll finish those for you.
That's right. I love it when other applications make life nice and easy for me. So first thing on the script template is going to be the class, and in this case, we're just going to kind of stay with our naming convention. Our class name will be Health Sphere. And the base. In other words, Health Sphere is going to extend what? We're going to inherit from what other class? Well, we've already talked about this a little bit in the last lesson. We're going to extend from Actor. So we'll go ahead and put Actor in there. And I don't want to assume PCX textures. And right now, if I hit Save Script, we're actually going to have a problem. Watch. Save Script warning. No animations present in output package aborting the template generation. So we need to go in there and put some sort of animation in here. Even though we don't have to actually create the animation, we're going to need to specify some.
Basically just specify a range of animation that it can see, but we're not even going to save that out to a PSA file. We'll still be left with just the PSK.
Exactly.
We'll edit those lines out of the script once we open it up.
So we can just come up here in an animation. We can just put temp in the animation sequence name and the range. We can say go from 0 to 10. And we just need to simply digest the animation. And then I'll come into the Animation Manager, and I will move temp from animations over into the output package section. But I do not have to come in here and hit save and save as. And for those interested in how this section actually works here, you can simply check out the Matinee VTM again because we go in depth on all of this area. But I'll simply click OK, come back down, and now if I hit Save Script, look at that. Script template file name Health Sphere has been written for us. So I'll go ahead and click OK. And at this point, if I was to come and open up a command prompt, and we can change directory. Actually, you know what? Let's not do it through a command prompt. Let's keep this as easy as possible for everyone to see. Let's just go ahead and open up folder structure like this. I'm up under UT 2003. If you remember, if we scroll back up right here, that our output folder was UT 2003 up under Buzz Stuff. So let's go ahead and pull that back up. Under UT 2003, let's go up under Buzz Stuff, and we've got a few things written. Whoa, we got the old log in there. We forgot to uncheck that. Not that this matters whatsoever, but just to point out that a log file has been generated, and you could have prevented that from being generated if you would have simply checked no log files up under the log file section right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and come back in here and see what else we've got. All right, so there, in fact, let's just go ahead and simply delete that out. So it's just less files to worry about. All right, healthsphere.psk. That's the actual model that we had created when we clicked right here, Save Mesh Ref Pose. Okay, so that's how that got there. The healthsphere.tga file, the target file, that was created when we saved it out from inside of Adobe Photoshop. Healthsphere.uc file. Okay, this is the new class file that was just created a second ago when we saved the script template. And finally, the ifeelgood.wav file. This is the WAV file that we just simply hit record and recorded Derek giving his crazy I feel good speech. So we've now got the pieces that we need, but we need to go ahead and take a look at adding some functionality in. Right, Logan?
Right. This is similar to the workflow section where we had all the files, organized them, and brought them into a package. Now we're actually going to take a look at what's in the .uc file and how we add functionality, properties, and so on, as well as what's necessary, the actual lines that are necessary to bring those different pieces of content all into one .u package.
Exactly. Now, to make this a little cleaner, let's go ahead and set up our folder structure and get everything into place. So I'm going to do just like last time. I'm going to go ahead and create some folders. So we've got our classes. We've got our textures. We've got our models. And finally, we have our sounds. Okay, so let's go ahead and move these guys around to the appropriate area. So I'll go ahead and grab the sound and simply drag it down here and move it into the sound section. We'll grab our UC file, move it into classes. We'll grab our texture here and move it down into textures. And we'll grab our PSK file and we'll simply move that down to models. Okay, so now I can go ahead and grab all of these, right-click, and we'll just say cut. So we'll cut this out. I'll jump back up into the root of UT 2003, and let's go ahead and create a new folder, Health Sphere, like such. And then we'll simply hit enter to drop down under that folder. I'll right-click and paste those folders there. So now we've got our package folder, and we've got the appropriate folders up underneath it. Now, if you are wanting to follow along and do something similar, but you're not interested in perhaps creating new textures, or if you don't want to have sounds, etc., you don't have to have those folders, do you, Logan?
Right, you only need those folders if you're bringing in that type of content. If you're just doing a simple mod that needed no new models or anything, basically just an extension of an existing gun, all you would need is a classes folder.
Exactly. And you know what? As a matter of fact, in the next lesson, we're going to take a look at doing just that. So it'll be just basically UC scripts or Unreal scripts that'll be there, no other content. All right, so now let's just go ahead and jump up under classes here, and let's go ahead and open up the Health Sphere. Okay, so one of the things I might want to do is go ahead real quickly. Let's come up under Environment Options, and let's just come over here and change our font size up to maybe 18, just to keep things maybe a little bit lower. All right, we'll go with that. Okay, so Health Sphere, this is what was generated for us automatically just a minute ago with Actor X. Okay, right now the class Health Sphere, and it extends Actor. Very good. Now we have a series of exec lines. Logan, you want to talk about these exec lines?
Well, these exec lines will simply run a command that can be used to do various things inside Unreal. As a matter of fact, it's similar to what Unreal Ed itself does internally.
That's right.
And what it's doing is it's grabbing the PSK and actually truly importing it into a package here.
Right. So this one right here is drawing in, pulling in the model, more model stuff. Now we get down here and it's looking for the animation. Okay. So right now over here, models /.psa. That's because we never actually sent anything out into a PSA file. We can delete that PSA line out because if you remember, we didn't have any actual animation that we were bringing in. But if we did, this is where it would exist. So I'll go ahead and delete that out. So let's see, mesh map. Default anim, okay, again, here is more stuff that we can go ahead and kill out because this is lines that were automatically generated for the animation. Okay, digest and compress the animation, blah, blah, blah. So let's go and kill all this animation stuff out. Okay, so here we are with some texture stuff. And let's see, anything else, Logan? Obviously, we're going to need the audio in just a second.
That looks good for the model itself.
Okay, so I guess we can go ahead and throw the exec line in real fast for the audio import, because that wasn't something that was generated for us over in Actor X, so we're going to need to go about doing that ourselves. And here is the syntax for doing it. Basically, a pound exec space audio space import space, and then we need to tell it the file. And file is going to be equal to, and if you remember, it exists up under sounds, the sounds folder, / and it's called I feel good .wave. Okay, space, and we need to go ahead and give this a name now. So name is going to be equal to, and same thing, I feel good, like such. All right, so far, Logan, good and happy with everything?
So now we should be bringing in all our custom content, texture, sound, and model.
You got it. So now at this point, let's go ahead and take a look at adding some quick functionality in there and setting some additional default properties. But at this point, if you think about it, back to the object-oriented introduction that we did in the last lesson, we've got something very similar to that automobile class that we set up, don't we? Basically, we've got the class definition. Now we've got some extra lines right here which are just used for at compile time only to bring in our model and everything, right?
Right, just to grab the rest of the content we're going to need in this package.
So that it all gets put into that final .u file. And then we had the default properties. Remember when we went in there and we specified the interior was cloth, the color was white, things like that. Except now we've got some things such as the mesh is going to be the Health Sphere mesh, which is the actual mesh okay, that we can refer to with the model file when we actually imported in the PSK file, which if I just go ahead and move on over here a little bit more, you can see there it is, healthsphere.psk. Okay, and then NB static equals false. So let's go ahead and throw some functionality in like we saw earlier. And since we are inheriting from actor, there is a function in actor called touch. You want to talk about touch a little bit, Logan?
Well, touch is just something that gets called when any other actor would touch this one.
Exactly.
Not only that, you're also fed the information of what actor just touched this one.
So what we can do in this case, we don't want to use the actor's touch. We want to go ahead and go in there and change it to our own touch function, right?
Right, because the old touch function is just a skeleton for adding your own stuff. By default, an actor doesn't do anything when you touch it.
Right.
So it's there in case you do need to run anything upon being touched.
Exactly. So I'm going to type in function, touch, and we're going to go ahead and bring in actor, other. And we didn't have to stick with the name other. We could have put this anything we wanted, right?
Right. Other's just a name. Of course, it is a convention. It's often used in all the existing Unrealscript.
But I'm just pointing out it could have been Buzz or something else if we wanted to. Okay, so in this function, what are we going to do? Here's our little bit of functionality. If you remember back to the very beginning of this lesson, what did we say HealthSphere was going to do? First of all, its job is to be a creepy-looking sphere. Well, we've accomplished that with the little yellow happy face. The second thing is when you touched it, what's going to happen is you will get an additional 10 points added to your health. And then finally, it's going to scream out, I feel good, using that WAV file that we're also putting into this package. So let's just go ahead and do this. I'm going to typecast other into a pawn. You want to talk about when I type this out?
Well, originally when touch was defined, it's taking in an actor. So it's now, if you were to do just say other.health, it's still looking at other as an actor. Actor does not have a health property. If we typecast that to pawn, pawn does have a health property.
That's right, giving us access to it. Okay, so and let's go ahead and jump down to the next line. So now there we are in this line right here, actually giving us some health, plus 10 points. And now let's go ahead and play the sound. So there's a function built in for us called play sound that we have access to. And we'll use name provided like such. Okay, and finally, though we're not going to pull this up, let's go ahead and just do log, and we'll talk about this. We can try, Logan. Or well, we'll just point it out to him. Sometimes pulling the log up will kill sound inside of Unreal Tournament for us while we're doing the recording with everything going on the computer right now. But any time that you want to test something, like if you touch it, is it actually recording it internally as being a touch? You can use the log command to echo out into the log anything that you'd like to echo out.
Right, and once with the game loaded, you can type show log, and if you're not already showing it, and that's a very good debug method because instead of having to actually go hunt down the log file, you can read it as events occur.
Exactly. So with this, now all we really need to do, that's the only functionality that we were interested in doing. Very, very simple script that we're putting together here. But up under default properties, we've got to add a few more so that we can basically set up some collision stuff, right?
Right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and come in here and add some more default properties. So B collision, or B collide, actors, equals true.
Because if it's not set to collide with actors, then that function touch will never get hit.
That's right, you'll run right through it.
Well, you'll still run right through it, just you won't get that stuff triggered.
Right. And, oops, 56. And basically what I'm doing right here is I'm setting the collision height and the collision radius of this both to 56 because if you remember our sphere inside of 3ds Max was created at about 56, somewhere around there. So with that, now we have got our class. It's inheriting from actor. We've got the exec lines needed to import in the PSK file, which is our mesh, the texture, the sound. We've added some functionality to it, basically taking touch and expanding it into our own code that we need to actually occur to make the health sphere respond the way we want it to. And inside there, what we're doing is we're typecasting other as a pawn, and we're telling its health property needs to be had, or basically needs to have 10 added to it. That's what this plus equals means. Now, let me go ahead and kind of branch off right here for anybody who's watching this lesson and going, man, I am so lost, and I thought the idea was to make it to where I could understand Unrealscript. Don't worry. Syntax of Unrealscript is coming up really soon. In the next VTM, we're really going to start focusing on that with syntax of function, syntax of variable creation, how you lay out your statements, etc. The idea of this first VTM, it's just giving you a good feel of Unrealscript and creating packages. It's just getting your feet wet. You're wet. That's interesting. Your feet wet in the world of Unreal scripting. That is all. So if you're having a hard time following along with what I'm typing out here or don't really understand, that's okay. Don't panic right now because we're going to be going over all of this stuff very carefully coming up here really soon. All right, so we've got everything set up that we need set up so we can go ahead and save this out. I go ahead and close it. Now we can go ahead and simply come back up to the UT 2003, switch over into the system folder. Let's look for that any file. So we'll just come on down here into Unreal 2003, looking. There we go. Any file, and I'm just going to do a Control F and look for Edit P for Edit Packages. There we go. We'll simply cruise on down to the very bottom. I'm going to borrow that line with a copy and paste. And let's go ahead and come in here and type in Health Sphere. Just so that when we use UCC Make in just a second, it will pick up our new package folder and compile everything into the healthsphere.u file. So let's go ahead and save this. Close it out. Let's go ahead and open up a command prompt. Let's change directory over to System and UCC Make. And here it goes, going. And looks great. Picked up Health Sphere. There's 0 errors, 0 warnings. So it was very happy with everything that it saw. And now if we were to scroll all the way down to the very bottom, there is our healthsphere.u file. And so at this point, what we could do is just go ahead and run the game and make sure everything worked out. Right, Logan?
Yep.
So let's just go ahead, and I'll just come in here and start minimizing everything. And get started. Well, we're already started. Okay, so let's go ahead now and just run UT 2003. And let's just do a little instant action here. And let's just jump into the first thing we have. And fire. Alright, let's go to a place where we can drop Mr. Creepy down. So let's say right about there. And I'll just go ahead and hit tilde to bring up our console and type in summon space and health sphere dot health sphere, like such, and enter, and guess what? Mr. Creepy is there. Okay, look at that. And
so now if you want to think about it like back in the object-oriented programming lesson, we defined the class Health Sphere, but when we loaded the level, obviously it wasn't there yet. It was still just in blueprint form, if you want to think of it like that. We used summon to actually build one off those blueprints, so now we have a Health Sphere object in the level.
Exactly, and right now I've got 110 points. Let's hit it. I've got 120 points. Let's hit it again. Got 130 points. And you get the idea, hopefully. Okay, so interesting lesson, very basic lesson. That's the whole idea, though. Let's go ahead and actually come up here. Let's see how this works. Okay, show log, bringing that up just in case we lose our audio from the game right now. You'll at least be able to see in here that the last few things that hit was sphere was touched, sphere was touched, sphere was touched. This is what Logan was talking about a few minutes ago in regards to being able to use this as a debug method or just a testing method in general in regards to adding some sort of new functionality or modifying functionality in existing scripts. You could just echo stuff out into the log and make sure that stuff got echoed out, right?
Right, so you know what parts of the code are getting hit when.
You got it. So with that, let's just go ahead and exit out, and I think that's going to pretty much wrap up what we wanted to talk about. Again, I mean, it's not a major scripting lesson, but it's a good overview of what's involved in generating a new class that makes use of new content. So with that, that's going to conclude this lesson. Thanks, everyone.